Legal disclaimer. This content is for informational purposes only and is not intended as legal advice.
All right, you started the business. You got the clients. Now comes the part that separates amateurs from professionals. Running your safety consulting business like a true independent contractor. Because let's be clear, if you don't run it right, you won't last. First rule, burn this into your mind. You are not an employee. That means no guaranteed hours or job security, no benefits, no PTO or corporate protections, no internal authority inside the client's organization. You are a contracted safety professional brought in for expertise, not dependency. This distinction is critical legally and operationally. If a client starts dictating your methods, controlling your schedule like staff, or integrating you into their hierarchy, you risk misclassification and loss of independent contractor status. You are external oversight. You are compliance support. You are risk reduction. Your leverage comes from independence. The moment you act like internal staff, you lose negotiation power, pricing power, and legal protection. No contracts, no work, period. A safety consultant without contracts is exposed legally, financially, and professionally. Every engagement must clearly define your scope of work, the deliverables, for example, your reports, your audits, your inspections, site access expectations and limitations, your compensation structure, your payment timelines and enforcement terms, also liability clauses and protections. This is not paperwork. It is risk control. Without a contract, scope expands uncontrollably. You become responsible for things you were never hired to manage. And in safety consulting, that exposure can become legal liability if incidents occur. A strong contract protects your time, your income, and your reputation. Independent means you control your time, but only if you enforce boundaries. This is where most consultants fail, not because of lack of work, but because of poor scheduling discipline. Professional practices include structuring workload to avoid burnout and overexposure, preventing over-reliance on one contractor or project, maintaining pipeline visibility 30 to 60 days ahead, blocking time for administration, reporting, and compliance research. A single client should never dictate your entire business operation. If one contract represents the majority of your income, you are not diversified. You are vulnerable. Real independence comes from controlled workload distribution and proactive client acquisition. It will be good practice to document like your business depends on it, because it does. In safety consulting, documentation is not optional. It is your legal shield, your credibility proof, and your performance record. You must consistently produce daily or weekly site safety reports, hazard identification logs with timestamps, photo documentation with content, corrective action tracking and follow-ups, training attendance and verification records, and written communication summaries for recommendations. Documentation serves three purposes. It proves your due diligence. It protects you in liability disputes. Also demonstrate value to clients. If an incident occurs, your documentation is what determines whether you were negligent or compliant. Without it, you are defenseless. You are a consultant, not operations management. Your responsibility is to identify risk and recommend correction, not to take control of the company's workforce or internal decision making. Core responsibilities is hazard identification and reporting, regulatory compliance evaluation, and corrective action recommendations. What you must avoid is direct supervision of workers, making operational decisions for the company, assuming responsibility for implementation of corrective actions. When consultants cross into management roles, they increase liability exposure and weaken their independent contractor status. Maintain professional distance. Provide expertise, but not control. As a 1099 safety consultant, you are running a revenue-based business. That means you invoice clients directly, you manage tax obligations independently, you are responsible for cash flow stability. Financial discipline is essential, so you must define payment terms before work begins. You must use Net 7, Net 15, or Net 30 agreements. You must require deposits for large or multi-week projects. You must enforce late payment penalties consistently. Never start work without written authorization. Cash flow management determines survival. Even high-paying consultants fail when they lack payment structure discipline. If you are enforcing compliance, you must embody it. That means continuous professional development and operational readiness. So you must maintain updated OSHA and industry regulated knowledge, active certifications, site-specific training credentials, and valid insurance coverage with appropriate limits. Outdated consultants lose credibility quickly. In high-risk industries, knowledge gaps created liability concerns for clients. Your value increases with your current knowledge, not just your years of experience. Your business is only as stable as your professional network. Strong consulting relationships include general contractors and subcontractors, project executives and owner reps, safety directors and compliance managers, and other consultants and industry professionals. The goal is not one-time work. It is repeat engagement built on trust and performance consistency. Delivering accurate reporting, strong communication, and reliable presence turns single projects into long-term contracts. So remember, dependency on one client creates risk, and a network creates stability. In safety consulting, your reputation is your most valuable asset. It determines whether you get called back, whether you get referred, whether you get paid higher rates. Professional standards must be non-negotiable. Arrive early, prepared, and presentable. Communicate clearly and professionally at all times. Document everything without expectations. Enforce safety recommendations with confidence, not emotion. One poor decision can damage long-term opportunities. Consistency builds authority. Your name becomes your business identity. Protect it accordingly. So, a conclusion, running your safety consulting business as an independent contractor is not for the weak. There's no safety net, no guaranteed paycheck, no one coming to save you. But if you operate correctly, you control your time, you control your income, and you control your future. So, operate with discipline, move with purpose, and run your business like your name is on the line, because it is. Now, get out there and execute.